there's a lot happening. I think for residential people, first-time buyers.
Remember, like, people buy from people.
They can get you on. They'll sell it to you at a discount or give you like a spike.
You don't care how qualified a person is and they're getting straight A's. Welcome back to Take a Seat. We've got another special podcast out for you. We get entrepreneurs, business people, and also micro influencers. My next guest is all free.
Wow.
My next guest is all free. He is a businessman where he helps people with their mortgages. He's an entrepreneur because he has his own business and he's all over social media. So, you know, he's a micro celebrity also. So welcome on the show, Shaz.
Sean, thanks for having me. That's a lovely intro, man. Thank you.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, good, man, apart from just smashing my face into the mic.
Yeah,
So you've travelled from Bonnie Wells, eh?
South Wales. You got an international guest today.
Come on. There we go. Yeah, so you're from Wales. Are the rules different over there?
In what sense? We have roads. We have grass.
Yeah, okay, yeah. All right. Don't get smart with me already. But like, you know, like, do you have different rules and regulations? Like in
We have our own assembly, like Welsh government, but they do nothing. It's just there in name only. So yeah, we just do what you guys say.
okay.
You guys.
Because I know Scotland have some of their own rules as
Yeah,
well.
we've got similar stuff. So we've got relevant to property actually. You guys call it stamp duty. In Wales, it's called land transaction tax.
Okay, I didn't know
But
that.
it's all basically the same.
Okay.
yeah.
I think I saw you and Tej do a couple of deals together, right?
I'm his broker, so he's done the 15 properties.
Yes.
The ones that he's refinanced out, he's done it with me. He used to hate brokers before he met me. He still
Okay.
hates brokers now.
I'm sure he doesn't, man. Honestly, I saw you at Power of Social Media.
Peak performance, yeah.
Yeah, that's where we met last time.
did.
And yeah, you showed a lot of love. And like, I mean, we went out after the event as
Yeah.
well. But you were just like, really easy going. What?
To be fair, the reason that was shown, I think you said to me before the event, maybe on Instagram, you don't really go to networking events much. So I can see you were a little bit like, you weren't lost, but you weren't exactly trying to get out your shell. So I was like, let's try and get this guy more comfortable.
Oh, that's nice. And it's wonderful that you've just come on the podcast. Like, I just had to send you one message and we've got it done.
Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you seen any of our podcasts?
I've been watching a few in preparation for this. So I've seen the one with Tara and Ash,
Okay, yeah.
seen the one with Tej.
Yes.
Those are the two I've watched in full.
Okay.
The others just clips.
Thank you. What do you think of the content,
I
bro?
love it.
Yeah.
Listen, it's relevant. There's no agenda. You're not selling anything. No one's selling anything.
Yeah.
And there's loads of actionable advice from people.
Yeah, so talking about selling things, currently I am not selling anything because I think I could very easily come and sell people something with showing them a little bit of, if I opened up one of my bank accounts, people FOMO in, have you got like £90 million cash there? And or if I took them for a quick tour, a few of my HMOs or care homes or properties, you know, it's easy to get people to go, wow, but I think you've got to have, you know, some sort of, you know, there should be some sort of ethics behind it. And I think you should really look at a person and think, you know, how long does he want to be a one-hit wonder or does he want to last in the game? Because with myself, I just want to be in this space for the next 30 years.
Yeah, I always say to people, it's interesting you mentioned that you can probably do both, but it's very rare. But you can either get rich quick or get rich long, which means it lasts forever or last longer. So often you can't have the both. You know, if you want to get rich really quick in 7 days, that's not sustainable because you don't know the challenges and the journey to go through to get rich longer.
That's why you see a lot of lottery winners. They win the lottery and they lose it just as quick because there's been no journey. There's been no lessons. There's nothing that's been learned or sustainability. And sometimes, you know, when you say what goes around comes around, well, when you work generation through generation, I know I've learned lessons of my granddad. I've learned lessons of my father. I've now been 20 years in the business myself. Like, it's something that's transferable and it carries on. It has longevity through generations.
Absolutely. I think you've got to be always open and willing to learn from everyone. There's always someone who does something better than you do.
Absolutely.
But if you can't accept that, then I think that's a bad strategy.
Got to be a student of life.
Yeah.
You know, because every day we're learning, whether you're younger, older, different jobs. I sometimes even just like to go into have friends that who have normal employed jobs. purely just to see what are their problems, because sometimes you can get to a level yourself where you're like, yeah, mortgage taken care of, cars are paid, my expenses are, it just matters how much extra am I going to save this month.
Yeah.
So when you get to that stage, you sort of do lose
A bit of
consciousness.
touch with, yeah. I mean,
Exactly.
like I always say, so I've worked in call centers before I got into mortgages, and I think call centers are great because there's such a low barrier of entry to actually get a job in a call center. The people you meet there, the networking, if you think of it as networking, is crazy because if you need someone like a plumber or a builder in the future, those are the people kind of who are working in call centers. They're not looking for long careers in call center life. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
so the networking potential in those kind of jobs, I think is amazing, underrated.
Definitely. I really like the some laborers jobs. I think you learn a lot in, like, I worked in McDonald's. I think you probably know.
I've worked in a burger restaurant. I used to own a burger restaurant.
Oh, really?
Mate, these
Tell us
hands
more.
of yeah. So I got made redundant from a job before.
Okay.
We had 6 month gardening leave. I had a bit of money, and I was bored. I was like, "What am I gonna do?" But I was chilling. So my brother-in-law, he's got a lot of restaurants and takeaways. So I kind of the intention was never for me to run it. I pitched him the idea. I give all my ideas away. I was like, "Listen, here's my idea. Do what you want." And he was like, "Well, you've got nothing to do, so you're gonna do it with us." I was like, "Okay, great." So I ended up being the working partner. It was my baby, my name, logo, branding. I did all the menu, the layering of all the burgers. I cooked. It was great, but I'd never do it again.
No.
It's hard. It's hard. I used to wash all the pots and pans. These hands are not made for washing pots and pans,
They're for doing mortgage applications.
Yeah, handwriting.
Nice. But I mean, this is what we mean. Life is a journey. Not every place where you are is not where you're going to finish.
But go back to what you said earlier. It's if you've got the right mindset, it's what skills can you take from this part of your life moving forward. So one thing I learned definitely from doing that was any business that I have in the future, I want to be able to do every single role in that business. I'm not saying I want to do all the roles, but I want to have the skills. So we'll do it, washing all the pots and pans, doing deliveries, cooking the burgers. Because I don't ever want my staff to come back to me and say, oh, if I'm giving them pressure, they say, well, you do it. I was like, I can, because I've got the skills to do it.
And also, if you do the job yourself, you know how hard it is or what you're going through.
How much time should be allowed and
exactly.
what. Yeah.
And you're not putting too much pressure or too little pressure.
Empathy. Yeah.
So you know how that person feels. Oh, good hearing that story.
Yeah. Burgers.
So I've heard on other podcasts that you've also come from a background where you guys have had a shop, etc., and that's something I want to hear about because I started in a corner shop as well. But let's rewind back to the beginning. Let's go back to 8 years old, 9 years old. What was you? Let's go through school, education, first jobs, and some of your lessons.
So listen, I've always been a goody two shoes mummy's boy, and I got no shame in admitting that. So 8, 9 years old, I guess. You know what? I'm always been like an awkward, shy kind of person. I'm outgoing in controlled environments.
Introvert? Or?
Introverted, but but let's say we're going to an event today, for example, and if I know the people who are there, it's fine. But if it's a brand new room with new people, I'll go into my shell. I don't want to speak to anyone. Right. So yeah, I'm introverted unless it's a controlled environment where there's safety, familiarity, I suppose. But you know what? It's kind of the Asian work ethic, I call it. We work hard. So good at studies, good at jobs I've had. Every job I've had, I've been a top performer. But I've always been comfortable. I've always been I think it's a risk where you get into a job. So I worked for Lloyd's, I worked for Barclays, big corporate companies, right? And unless someone dies, you're not going to get promoted. It's just one of those situations, yeah?
Yeah. Is that in Wales?
It's in Wales, yeah. Okay. But for call centres in Wales. So did you know that I think there was some survey a couple of years ago that the most pleasing accents are South Wales or up North Manchester. That's why a lot of call centres are there.
Okay, yes, I have heard that. And when they do like adverts on TV,
yes,
it's always
someone from
up north, and the way they talk, because it's apparently that accent is more trustworthy.
Yeah, it's warm. I mean, the worst one is Scouse. I don't know if anyone's from Liverpool listening. Yeah, the accent isn't great, but anyway. But yeah, the kind of risk is in those jobs. At least for me, anyway, you get too comfortable. So yeah, it's not a long-term career, but look, things are going fine. I get my paycheck. Do I want to leave? Nah, I'm just happy. So I think I didn't really leave either by choice. I think when I was working for Lloyd's Bank, that actually was a choice. I'm not going to lie. My friends went to work for Barclays as mortgage advisors. They pushed me like, Shaz, what are you doing? Just come join us. They'll pay for your CMAP qualification. So you have to have that to be a mortgage broker. I was like, okay. So it was just mundane. I was like, yeah, great, let's do it. Barclays made us redundant after like 4 years. And guess where they moved the jobs to?
London.
Liverpool.
Liverpool. Probably cheaper rents up there,
Probably
innit?
cheaper up there, yeah. So moved it all to Liverpool. And that's when I had the break into the burger restaurant and also started doing specialist finance. So going from like Barclays was mainly residential mortgages, first time homeowners, that kind of thing. And again, it wasn't pushing me, man. Because the business was being generated because of Barclays, nothing to do with me. I was basically functioning as a processor, tick box, tick box, tick box, blah, 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 done. And it wasn't motivating me in any way. But you know what they do in these corporate places? I've learned this. They're very clever. They can see this is happening. They can see people aren't, or they've reached the ceiling, of kind of job satisfaction. But instead of promoting you, because they can't promote you because there's no real progression, they'll give you these like side tasks. Say for 6 months you got this little project, or for 3 months you can manage this team. Secondments, you don't get paid any extra, but you do more responsibility to make you feel like you're doing something more than you are. At the time, I loved it. Of course, yeah, I'll go to Leeds for 3 months. But thinking back, it's like the amount of man hours doing that, it was definitely worth the wage increase. But it is what it is. But then going from Barclays to doing specialist finance, which is like working with investors, was a whole different ballgame. And I'll be honest, I got no shame admitting it. The first 11 months when I was doing it, I was absolutely crap. I didn't know what a HMO was. The lingo was completely different to me. The way we generated business through networking events, again, being an introvert, it was something I was really uncomfortable doing. And I didn't have the best experience for the first year or so. And that was employed as well. That didn't end very well. So I got sacked from that job. And that kind of was a trigger for me to be like, you know what? One, I don't want to work for anyone else ever. And two, I need to kind of work on myself to be amazing at this because there's no reason I can't be. And here we are.
So what was some of the things that you had to sort of address? Like, you were a bit more introverted, you weren't good in rooms where you coming out and say, hi, I'm Shaz, etc.
Yeah.
What were the drivers? What were the things that made that change? Or did you get any training? Was there any coaching involved? Or did you just go to more events?
It was doing more of it, first of all, but is also speaking to people who were doing it and doing it well and kind of getting some feedback from them. So there's a property trainer, educated investor from the Midlands called Saj Hussain. Are you aware of Saj?
Oh yeah, I think so. Did he just do a podcast recently with ST Hamilton?
Yes, he did. Yes, St. Hamilton.
I
So
think
Saj is amazing. He's legit. He's one of the most legit people. And I went to one of his events, and he didn't say it to me directly. He was just saying to the audience about raising finance and stuff. He's like, for one thing, no one cares more about you than you do. So forget that about what you look like or anything else. No one cares as long as you give them value. And secondly, he said, in essence, if you don't want to do videos or photos, like just get over yourself. Like no one cares apart from you. And I really took that, and it's memorable. It stayed with me. And the second thing was I was making the mistake on socials and at networking events because I was trying to be different, or I was trying to be like a personable person. I'd be at a mortgage networking event with investors, and I'd start talking about a burger restaurant. To a degree, I get what I was doing it because I wanted to be like, say, a human being. But the feedback I got from one of the brokers I was working with, like, Shaz, it's great, but what do you want to be known for? Do you want to be known as this restaurateur who does mortgages on the side? Or do you want to be known as this mortgage broker who's got all this knowledge? And that again stuck with me, and I kind of changed the way I spoke about things.
Nice. So like what they were trying to say, look, you're in the finance industry now. People want to know about how good you are because you're ultimately managing the biggest numbers that they're going to be seeing.
Absolutely.
What rates you're going to be providing, is it going to be on the right term and structured correctly,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, he's like, look, talk about all this personal stuff after you've built your reputation, but right now you are new. You've got to work it backwards, basically.
Nice. So what was some of the courses that you did before? I know you did a CMAP for your mortgage
Yeah.
advisor role, but what was some of the, going back at when you, before all of this,
Yeah.
going back to like GCSEs and college and uni, what were some of the courses you did there? Because some of our viewers might be quite young. They might not be nowhere near CMAP. They might just want to look at, what sort of things you were doing and if there's any similarities, because a lot of our audience is quite young and it's not just one thing. they obviously know potentially you can help them with their lending needs, long
Yeah, yeah,
term, even short term for bridging, which we're going to go through.
yeah.
But maybe just a little bit about your childhood growing up and a few of the lessons you learned to make you the man that you are today.
So I've always been interested in like pop culture, things that are on TV, radio, films, Bollywood movies, anything. Even nowadays, I haven't got time to watch anything, but I know everything. Like I absorb that information a lot quickly, and I
Who's
can
your
recall
favorite
it.
actor?
Shah Rukh Khan and Al Pacino for Hollywood acting.
Oh, come on.
But yeah, so I've always been interested in that. I've always been interested in media. So if you go to GCSEs, I was a top set ones. We have sets in Wales. Is that what you have here?
Yeah, we have
Yeah, I was
sets
set
as
one and
well.
everything, right? Even science. And I remember before the actual exams, they have mock exams.
Yes.
I got a pass in everything apart from science. I got a U in science. They dropped me from set one to set four, and I was like, this is ridiculous. But I had no real kind of path at that point. I think I was just happy doing everything. Mum and dad are always very supportive. And I'll be honest, unlike a lot of other Asian parents, my parents had never been comparing me to anyone. So it would never be a case of, oh, great, you got 91%, but, Mr. Mahmood's daughter got 94. That never happened.
That's good.
So there was never that pressure. My mum has always been the case of like, Mum, I want to do this. And her is, okay, will it make you happy? Yeah, crack on and do it. So that's kind of molded me a little bit.
What did your parents do, if I can ask?
So we have a shared experience here, Sean. I'm glad you asked. So we used to have a corner shop.
Okay.
And it was great. We used to live upstairs.
Okay.
Is that your setup as well?
No, we live around the corner.
Right.
Mine was my dad was in partnership with his brother.
Right. Okay.
So when we came into sort of the country, they shared one room together. The three brothers. And my dad was one of them, and then my grandma and granddad used to sleep on the floor.
Mum and dad had that before I was born. I guess as the family grew, they kind of got their own. But yeah, I think the corner shop thing. I think a lot of it is the British dream. You come here, get your own business, and in those days, maybe the easiest business or barrier of entry was getting a corner shop. We had a corner shop, lived upstairs. Every holiday was Pakistan, so not really in holiday; it was just going back home. But again, these are things that make you what you are. So right now, I'm very close to my family in Pakistan, whereas I know a lot of my friends or people I know of my age, they don't keep any contact with their relatives back home. Whereas I'm like, I keep in touch with them all the time, and we're very, very close.
I suppose it keeps you a little bit humble as well. Like, because when you see...
Listen, I go over there, sorry to interrupt you, but I go over to Pakistan, right? See my cousins. They all look similar, we look similar. And then I'm like, wow, that's a twist of fate that my parents chose and came over here. I could be that guy. Do you know what I mean?
So when you have that sort of mindset, Shaz, do you know what I mean? Like, we need to make the most of, what we have.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of people don't even... I'm not saying your family's in this sort of situation, but some people don't even have clean water. They have to walk 10 miles, or everything is labourers. They don't have machines. Everything is by hand.
The problem I find with Pakistan still is, and I speak to my younger nephews now, is they still want to come here. And I'm like, guys, you've got a lot of them in Pakistan. There's not many employees. A lot of them are business owners, right? I'm like, guys, you've got business there. People, wait on you hand and foot. I've seen like, they're not mega rich, but even on the lower business levels, people won't let you do anything. Like your staff will treat you like a god, right? And I'm like, you're going to come over here and you're going to work in like a restaurant and do washing pots and pans. And you won't have any money to send over because you're going to pay your rent, all this kind of stuff. You're going to get paid £5 an hour. Like, why? And I think that hasn't changed back home yet. But other than that, yeah, I do definitely appreciate the fact that I've been born in this country, all the opportunities we have, because, I could be back there doing manual labor or just, a small job making ends meet.
So how old was you when you started working in the shop?
I didn't work in the shop. Listen, this is one of my things. So I'm a middle child. My sister's older. My brother's younger. I'll be honest, I didn't really want to work in the shop.
Right.
My brother, on the other hand, he was always like, yeah, I'll help out, whatever.
Yeah.
But what happened was my dad, this was after high school, so maybe I was 13, 14. He had a heart attack. And
okay. Sorry to hear that.
No, it's okay. But he had a heart attack. And I think that kind of thrust me then into the role of working in the shop.
Right.
Well, not long term, we recovered. But I think that gave me the first taste of, actually, how much work does he actually do? Because it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of numbers. It's hard graft. You got all sorts of people in the shop. People you don't even want to speak to, but you have to deal with them. So that was my first taste of working properly in the shop. But other than that, unfortunately, I had no real interest. I wanted to do creative things like media and marketing. So when it came to university, obviously you do your choices. And I was like, yeah, mum, I want to do media production, right? And then she's like, okay, I don't understand what it is, but are you going to be happy doing it? I was like, yeah, yeah, sure, okay, fine, do it. Terrible degree. It was one of those, right? And I'm not saying people should choose the traditional route of, like law or whatever, but with media production, I found there wasn't any real education. It was a case of here's a piece of content, a film or an artwork or something that we like that's good. We want you to replicate that in your own words. And to me, that was like I'm not learning anything at all. I learned how to like develop photographs in a dark room, but that's like when am I ever going to use that again?
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, technology's moved on way too
yeah,
much for
yeah.
that.
You got your phones now, and the other problem with uni, right, was my best friend at the time, Chris. Give him a shout out. He I used to drive back and forth to uni every day. End of year one, he got a girlfriend, also from university. And then this guy just wouldn't speak to me. So
Did a disappearing act, yeah?
yeah, well, even worse than that. So Sean, how early was I today?
You were probably
Like
back
half an hour early, right?
Yeah,
At
yeah,
least,
half
at
an hour,
least.
40 minutes early. Yeah, you're on
Okay,
time, mate.
I'm punctual
He's
to a
punctual,
point, to a fault,
definitely.
right? But then what? So we would be punctual to uni because I'm driving. I'm kind of in control. We get there half hour early at least. He'd then go and leave me and go see his missus. I'm like, mate, well, I thought we just chill for half an hour. Oh no, I'm gonna go meet her. And it made me really miserable for the rest of the 2 years because obviously I had other friends, but this guy was sharing a journey with me every bloody day. But yeah, uni, I've got the Desmond Tutu for the pass. Tutu, do you get it?
No,
No.
no, no, no.
So
You
if
need to
you
help
can
me
you can
out.
pass with a first,
Oh,
you
yeah.
can pass with a 2-1,
Okay.
or you can pass with a 2-2. But you call it a
Okay.
Desmond Tutu.
Okay.
Showing my age, it's a dad joke. Don't worry, don't
Sorry,
worry.
bro. Sorry,
But yeah, I
man.
got the degree. It was
Gonna
great.
use that one.
But have I ever used that degree in an actual job? No, I haven't. What I found was when I left university and I was looking at jobs in that field, a lot of them wanted you to work for free for like 6 months, internships, that kind of thing, or move to London. I would never move and leave my parents, or not move too far from my parents. I'll be honest.
Right.
I think that's like non-negotiable, no matter what. Um, and working for free, I can see the value in it, but my situation then wasn't one that could do that.
Do that. There's a thing you touched on with Chris. Yeah.
Yes,
That, how long had your friendship been with Chris?
from high school. So what, 6, 7 years?
6, 7 years. And then it came to a point when somebody else came into the equation. And I know we all fall in love
Yeah.
and, we have stars in our eyes and we can't even see, right? But did that give you any lessons to say, hey, hang on, like on this journey, you in life, you're actually on your own. The only person you can depend on is yourself. Was you a little bit more careful going on in the future in terms of some of the relationships and how much you put into it and your expectations of people?
I wish I was. So, like, I generally nowadays don't have any expectations of anyone, but I still put 110% in energy in to other people because why not? If I have that energy, when it's very apparent and visible, and as long as there's no agenda or there's no kind of ulterior motive,
Yeah,
I always give 110%. So yeah, I think, but often, yeah, you are right. I think often, sometimes, if that energy isn't then given back to you, it can feel a bit like, well, what's this relationship? And it doesn't last then, does it?
definitely, definitely. I think as soon as I hit my 30s,
Hmm.
early 30s,
You're 30, you look younger than that.
no, when I hit my 30s, I'm 36 now, bro.
I'm 37 next week.
Okay, okay. I'm 37 in April, so we're
Oh,
not too far
yeah.
apart. Yeah, that's why I trim it down low to hide the whites, bro.
And hide the double chin a little bit.
Definitely. But yeah, so what was your sort of first experience of work then?
So actual work. So I used to. I won't name the company, but my first experience of work was selling windows on the phone. So
Okay.
it's a sales role.
Yeah. I
It
think
wasn't
everyone did that.
it wasn't very ethical. I'll be honest. Because you'd have to call. Obviously, you have a call sheet. You'd call elderly people. Potentially vulnerable people. Obviously, you can't force them. They're not selling on the phone, but it'd be a case of, hey, we've got people on foot in your area right now. When can they come and visit you? And we were told you can't go off the phone until you've got a time arranged. So then you'd suddenly turn into like a shark. You'd be like, hey, listen, they literally like next door, come late. And then you'd hear stories of how the foot canvassers, or what they call them, the foot salesmen, when they got into someone's house, they would not leave until they got a sale agreed. And then
Wow.
you see these on Watchdog and stuff afterwards, and I've seen this company on Watchdog
Horrible.
for bad ethics, but I was good at the job.
Wow.
I've always been good at sales. I think not to be cocky, but in terms of being self-aware, I'm a people person. I'm quite warm, and I think people gravitate to that. So I'm good at sales.
Definitely.
So that was my first experience of work. Didn't last too long. Didn't want to do it too long, but that's what we did. And then after that, I joined Lloyds Bank. So where I am in Wales, right, we've got this massive call center for Lloyds Bank.
Okay, how did you get that job?
Just applied. Oh, just applied. And again, it's
telephone or
telephone call center. It's one of those where everyone in my age range has worked there at some point. It's like a rites of passage, right?
Okay.
Can I tell you about my worst job interview, by the way?
Go on, please tell us.
Okay, so I'll name names. You can cut it afterwards if you want. So there's a makeup artist from America called Elizabeth Arden. I've never heard of her, but apparently she does Sex and the City or did Sex and the City. This is like a while ago.
Okay.
So once I left university and I was like, oh, there's my degree. I've got media, which could be, loads of things. So this job advert, and it said no experience needed. That's the first red flag, yeah?
Okay.
No experience needed. Marketing. I was like, okay, cool. Sounds like sales. Like, great. Cardiff office, so 20 minutes from where I live. Immediate start, good commission. Ting, tick, 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 tick. Red flag, red flag, red flag. Anyway, I went in, gave my CV. The day after, I get a call back, and they say, "Oh my God, we gave your CV to the CV of the CEO of the company, and he's so impressed. We're happy to take you on. Do you want to do it like an induction training day tomorrow?" That's also a red flag, by the way.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I was like, "Yeah, cool. I'm coming." So I didn't know what the job was. There was no real. I was like, what's the actual day-to-day job? Because it's still very unclear. But yeah, it comes to the training day. We'll explain it all. Now, the induction or the training day or whatever you want to call it, what it involved was shadowing this guy who was like their top salesman, carrying this big, massive bag of makeup from Elizabeth Arden. Okay. And you'd have to go to every local business on this big stretch of road in Cardiff. You'd have to sell the makeup to people working in the businesses. So you weren't even selling to random members of public. It was people working in the business. I'm guessing that's a license thing, right?
Who knew what they were doing?
And it was demoralizing. And the guy was saying things like, "Yeah, but when you start making some good money, all these rainy days and long walks will be worth it." And I'm like, I don't want any rainy days or long walks. This is ridiculous. I don't know how that business survives. What if you're working in your dad's shop and some guy comes and tries to sell you makeup? Are you buying it?
I'm not sure in today's day and age.
So
I suppose might be wearing it.
I actually ran away. I saw a taxi park up. I dropped my bag. I jumped.
Your first day?
Go on my induction day. Yes, I didn't get paid for it.
Wow. So one thing I'm getting from this one, Shaz, is if it sounds too good to be true, it probably
red
is.
flags. If there's a red flag, it's an actual red flag.
So what would you do differently this time? You're a mature man now and stuff. And what advice would you give to a younger when they're applying for jobs? What to sort of look out for?
I think even before you apply for jobs, I think university, if it's worth just a quick summary from my opinion, is I don't think it's for everyone, and not definitely for every career. I think even where I am now, university is not essential, and I'd employ people who've not been at university, so it's not essential. Pardon me. I think if you're looking to be a lawyer, solicitor, accountant, then yeah, go, because there's a career path.
And you need certain qualifications for them roles.
Absolutely, but if you want to be, for example, I'm just thinking of an example like a software engineer or a sound designer. We're in this podcast studio. You don't need to have a degree for that. You need to have a qualification of some sort, but not kind of a mandated educational qualification, right?
Even then, some people will start with the experience side first. They start learning how it all works, to look through YouTube or do a couple of little courses.
Honestly, and so that's the first thing is I wouldn't feel pressured to go to university these days in 2023, right? In terms of applying for jobs, just be yourself. On your CV, the way we were taught. So when I've been made redundant twice, we get help with our CVs, and it's a case of, rather than just listing your jobs, list your job role and the key achievements and your responsibilities. But I don't know. I have staff. I've employed people. Do I look at CVs? Do I ask for them? Yes, as a matter of process. But what I really care about is when I meet someone, what's their vibe? What's their energy? Can we work together? What's their values? So get to the interview stage and sell yourself.
Definitely, 100. That's very valid what you said there, because remember, like, people buy from people, and you don't care how qualified a person is and they're getting straight A's. But if they're a nightmare to work with, do you really want to be around that person?
I've interviewed people for mortgage broker roles, And no offense to anyone, but like, say if you've got no personality, then in this role you're probably not going to be great because you've got to see people and they've got to engage with you. So you've got to be the right fit for the role you're trying to do.
100. So, like, what does it entail to be a mortgage advisor? So, somebody right now is watching saying, okay, I'm just at college right now. I'm not going to do this degree. It's going to cost me 10 grand a year, 30 grand debt, and it's not in a field that I actually need a degree in.
Yeah.
I might do an apprenticeship, but hang on, there's this thing called a CMAP now. So,
Yeah.
you know, I think there used to be a CFA, which is for a financial advisor. I don't know
Correct.
if that's still around.
Yeah.
But then you got a CMAP to be qualified to sell mortgages. So what does that entail? How long does it normally take? Can you do it self-studied? Can you do it while working with a brokerage firm? What other ways?
No, really good questions actually. So CMAP, in my opinion, CMAP is one of the easiest qualifications to have that puts you on par with a solicitor accountant. And I mean that in sense of you can certify passports, you know, that kind of stuff. So you get responsibility. In terms of the actual studying, we did it, or I did it through Barclays, and that was classroom based. It took us 3 months to read all the books and then get passed. It was, I wouldn't say it was easy, but it's quite straightforward because we were immersed in that environment.
That took you 3 months.
To do all the studying and the exams and be done with it.
Full time?
Full time. So they were paying us as well, so that was great.
Okay.
But in the real world now, you can go on Groupon, or there's other websites you can go on. Average cost about 1,200 quid.
It's nothing really.
It's honestly, it's an investment in yourself for the earning potential afterwards. And you can either do it, so in terms of how you do it, like you asked, either you can do it in person. I think there's people do it in Bristol in like a classroom environment for a week, or you can do it as like a webinar. So it's scheduled times. It's a live classroom, but you're just doing it in your house, or you can do it self-study. So there's so many ways of doing it. Why would you not? CMAP 1, it's split into 3 parts.
Right.
So CMAP 1, that is the most annoying and the most tedious part because that covers mortgages, but everything else, tax, pensions, financial advice a little bit, stuff you're never going to use, but it covers everything. CMAP 2, I found easier because it's specifically around mortgages. And then CMAP 3 is like case studies. So people tend to do the exams 2 and 3 together. But all in all, I'd say if you allow yourself 3 months tops, there should be no reason that you're not doing it. You can do it whilst you're working another job. You can do it whilst you're under a brokerage as well. I'd say it's definitely a good career path for people who want to kind of get out and network more and build their network and relationships.
And how old do you have to be?
18.
18.
Yeah.
There we go, guys. if you're taking a break from uni, taking a gap year, if you've just finished college, or you're even, like in between a summer holiday and you're 18, then go and stick yourself in one of these classrooms. A lot of people say, Sean, I want to get into property. What can I do with 5 grand? Where can I invest? Invest in yourself.
Absolutely. It's the best investment. Yeah.
Exactly. Create value out yourself. Spend £1,200 on that. Maybe £1,200 on some little drinks and lunch money for yourself. Just invest in yourself. Have a title next to your name, because then you'll then have a business card with your name, with CMAP qualified, which holds some sort of value. Then get yourself into some free networking events or little £30-40 tickets. Surround yourself with the right people, and you're on your way already. Imagine if you know one of the products that you need eventually in the future if you're going to invest in property.
Yeah.
It's a great tool to
have. That
is
basically the model. Like you say, get the CMAP, start networking, build your business, build yourself. There's no way for it to go wrong.
Have you invested in property?
I've got 2 single lets, which I am in the process of selling.
Okay. When did you get into property? When did you buy?
So that was after I started working with investors, because I then became part of that network and I understood the potential in property. Yeah.
Okay. And how old was you?
How old am I now? I'm 37, so I guess 34, 33 late.
Okay,
yeah.
okay. Did it make a difference when you were a homeowner with the job that you're sort of doing?
In what sense?
Like, so you're providing lending needs for people.
Yeah.
And did it make you more compassionate about it because you're dealing with lenders when they send you, oh, your rate's changing now, Shaz, or other things that happen? Did it make you feel more like empathy, like when you're working with others?
I mean, look, I've always been empathetic anyway. I think that's one of the reasons I get into a lot of arguments with my friends is they'll kind of tell me the situation they're in, and I'll always be like, well, what was the other person thinking? Because they're like, Shaz, you want to be supporting me, my friend. Like, yeah, but let's just try and be balanced. So empathy is always big on my radar.
Devil's advocate.
Devil's advocate. But yeah, obviously, when I was at Barclays, I was working with homeowners all the time. And I was also working with elderly people who couldn't pay off their mortgage. So I kind of got into the emotional sort of thing there. With investors, it's completely different. And I always say with residential clients, they value you more. It's like, oh, my first house, thank you so much, which is great. With investors, it's like, here's my next deal, crack on. And not everyone's made for that relationship. Some people think, oh, he's being rude. It's not being rude. It's just it's a business transaction. Just move on and do it.
Yeah. When was the right time for you to go from employed to self-employed?
I think the right time was when I got sacked from my job as a mortgage advisor in that company. I think then, because I realized that I can't rely on someone else for my day to day. So I've got to get my own economy, however I do it, and take that risk and be self-employed.
But it was great the fact that you got certain skills, some experience, and a qualification out of it, right?
Absolutely. And well, no, it wasn't Barclays that sacked me. Sorry. So Barclays made us redundant.
Okay.
Then I started with a specialist mortgage company with investors.
Okay.
I was there for 12 months, and then they let me go.
Yeah.
But the other thing as well is in terms of risk management, I'm very, very risk averse, right? I knew when I kind of went self-employed that, look, if this goes tits up, the worst that could happen is I move back my parents. And that literally is the worst. And they wouldn't mind. Unlike say British or Western people who kick their kids out at 18. My parents want me to keep me in the house till I'm 40. Do you know what I mean? So
they're like, please don't leave. Shaz.
Yeah, I've done something wrong. No, I'm an adult.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, what risks were there when you were setting up your business? Because ultimately, you've got a qualification. Do you have to register with other people, etc.?
Yeah. So there's a lot of overheads that people don't realize. Maybe I didn't realize. You've got to get your own data protection license. So ICO, which is the company that do that. Obviously, liability insurance, public liability, employer liability, office, rent, rates. Those are the kind of costs.
Can you work from home?
You can do. I try not to. I'd rather work from an office. I've got staff as well, so
sure.
Have a central office, and also in my office I've got a separate room for podcasting. So I've got my content creation room, which I work from.
Nice.
Yeah. And then in terms of what goes wrong, and I think how much money a mortgage broker makes, people kind of get it slightly twisted. So yes, on your illustrations, you'll see a mortgage broker. You'll see Lloyd's Bank will pay Shaz mortgages £1,000, for example. But you got to realize that actually doesn't all come in to Shaz mortgages. There's network fees. There's all these fees and license registration. Normally, I'd say on average, about 20% comes off before I see
you
it.
even see it.
Yeah, because there's payment clubs and payment routes and all this kind of stuff. So it's about deal sizes in that sense. So I'm down in South Wales. When you talk to Tej, how much is a house in the valleys when he buys it?
He said that he bought something for about 60 and then flipped it for about 83 or something like that.
Okay, so if he comes to me for a refinance for, let's say, £100,000 house, the lender normally pays about 0.45%. So that's 450 quid, right? So how many 450 quids have I got to do to make a good living? So yeah.
And how long does an application take you?
Well,
for 450 quid.
Yeah, so for end to end, they don't pay till after completion. End to end is about 3 months. So they pay you after 3 months. You do 3 months worth of, well, I suppose the work finishes after mortgage offer. That takes about 3 to 4 weeks. Then all you're doing is chasing solicitors, because solicitors are the worst.
And how many can you manage at the same time on your own?
So I did do my own administration for a while. Then you reach capacity.
What is that capacity?
It's different for me because I'll make time, but 45, 50 cases at a time.
Okay.
But that's not. I know not everyone can do that. So I've got like Jo, my admin in the office, and she's like, Shaz, I think you need to slow down or get someone else in.
Yeah.
Because she's like, I feel I'm at my max, and I'm glad she's open enough to tell me that rather than being slow or inefficient.
Yes.
But yeah, so in terms of processing, 45, 6 cases, mortgage offer 3-4 weeks, and then it's just chasing solicitors, and that's the longest part of buying a house. I'm sure you know how. What's your relationship like with your solicitor? Are they good?
My solicitor? Yeah, I've got a very good solicitor.
Okay.
Yeah, got
very rare.
Very good. He's on WhatsApp.
Is he on WhatsApp?
Yeah, Waleed, he's on WhatsApp, and I'm just like, yo, bro, I need this done.
Yeah.
Come in 2 o'clock this afternoon, we sort it. You know what I mean? But it's taken a while because you get certain solicitors, which is, okay, no, we've got your request.
We'll deal with it in due course. And
it's like 3 days later, what's happening? Oh, yes, we did need to look at that, didn't we? And it's like, and every time, and they'll give you one word answer, and then you go back to the
Yeah.
bottom of a pile of 3 working days, and you're just like, I do not want to be in that position.
Yeah.
You
I
know?
think for me, I think from the position I'm in, I find the issue with solicitors is they don't charge enough for the actual work they do and the responsibility they have, which means they take on many more cases than they should to get enough money. Because if you think about it, you got your solicitor, then you got 3 paraplanners, you got, the number of people involved isn't the fee they charge isn't enough for what they do. They should charge more, but then would people pay more is the issue. And it's such an archaic process. Land registry is all old school as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I think it's time to fire you
Do
some
it. I'm ready.
questions here. I've got some noted down because there are quite a few for you to get through. So these are some of the most common questions that you guys want to know about.
Okay.
What are the main documents for a mortgage? So if I'm coming to you,
Yes.
I don't want to be annoying like to you because if I want to be your best friend really,
Yes.
because I want my mortgage done quick as possible. What are the documents you need?
I would say, look, I want to be your best friend as well, right? I want everything to go through right first time.
Yeah.
I don't want to come back and ask you little bitty questions.
Yeah.
What's your national insurance number? That kind of thing. So, document-wise, proof of ID, proof of address, proof of income. Those are the main things.
And how do I prove my income?
So if you're employed, if you have a job, it's normally 3 months pay slips and 3 months bank statements showing that money going in.
Sure.
If you're self-employed, now, that could be as a sole trader. Let's say you're a self-employed plumber, for example. Or some people say, well, I've got a limited company and I'm the director and my company employs me. From a lender's perspective, you're still self-employed. So when you're self-employed, you need your latest tax return, which is a calculation and the overview, right? Just need that. Proof of ID, so that's passport or driving license. Bank statements, obviously proof of address as well. So with proof of address, if you've already used a bank statement for something else, you need another proof of address. Council tax letter, phone bill, Sky letter, whatever. If you're buying a house, proof of deposit. This is a really important proof of deposit. There's a difference between proof of deposit and source of deposit. So proof is show me you have the money. Okay, 3 months bank statements, there it is. Source of deposit is where's that money come from? And you won't believe people come back with all these random things. Yeah, my uncle, he lent me this money 3 months ago. Okay, great. Where did he get his money from? And the issue is lenders may just tick the box, like, yeah, they've got the money. Solicitors have to satisfy where that money's come from.
AML checks, yeah?
Absolutely. When they unravel all of that, it can either take ages or the deal may not go ahead or the rate expires or the valuation expires. Deal with that up front.
Okay, nice. And how about if someone's gifting you the money?
Great, that's fine. Where have they got their money from? Because it could be, and it sounds like I'm being obstructive, but actually, I'm gifting you the money, but to give you that, I took out a personal loan. That's not acceptable.
No.
No.
Okay. And if it's a legit, like parents giving you money, for example, there's got to be another document that needs to be signed.
So it depends on the amount. Sometimes they may have to get independent legal advice. Sometimes, not very often, but usually they have to sign a gifted deposit letter. Just say, this is a gift. We're not going to get repaid. We have no interest in the house.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are there any other more creative ways to come up with the deposit?
So mortgage lenders will want the money to be your own money or gifts from family. When it comes to investment finance, and say bridging lenders, I guess we're going to come to bridging. Bridging's awesome because you can be creative. So you see people on social media, have you got some money in the bank? I'll give you a bank beating return give me 50 grand for 10 months. If you've got an investor loaning you money, that's fine. Don't hide it, right? Get a loan agreement in place. You can't give them a charge you cannot give them a charge on the property. Get a loan agreement, make sure they got their evidence of funds, and you can actually get investor loans on as well for bridging.
Is that angel finance, that they call it?
You call it angel finance, yeah. As long as it's all above board and it's clear.
So imagine I've got the skills.
Yeah.
I've got the skills
to raise finance.
No, to buy.
Okay.
To buy a house. So
Yeah.
I'm like, I know that's a good area. I know I can uplift it, but I just ain't got money.
Yeah.
But then I've got 4 friends with me, and the property's 100,000, and they've all got 25 grand each. How do I get the money from them
to you
and then sort of get it to you in terms of I'm gonna buy it cash and then refinance it with you, for example, to say
who's gonna own the property?
So
just you, or just you and your friends?
Me, I'm going to be owning this property now, and I'm telling all these other lot I'm going to give you, for example, a 10% return. So I'll give you 2.5 grand each within 1 year.
That's fine. That's absolutely fine. So each of them would have a loan agreement in place for that amount. And again, no charge on the property, unsecured loan between you and them or between your company and them. You need to make sure you do your checks about where they've got the money from. We approach a bridging lender, we tell them how this has come about. On situations like this, let's say you've got no money, or you've got money but you don't want to put it in because you want to use investor money.
Yeah.
Most bridging lenders want you to put something in because it's called skin in the game. You want to make sure there's some risk on you as well. But I've worked with some lenders now where as long as they can see how or why, they're kind of okay with you putting nothing in. So the how and why really is, how has Sean got to a position where he's managed to get these people to give him 25 grand each and not putting anything in? Can you explain that to us? And again, I've done situations where I'm look, here's his Instagram account. He's done 10 of these projects before. He's got a track record. This is how he's raising money. And they're like, okay, we get it. So, but this is not to kind of sell myself, but if you took that scenario to a broker, say, sat in your bank or sat in a state agency, they will not understand it. They'll think you're committing mortgage fraud or something and not get what you're doing. This is why you'd be working with the right people.
Yeah. No offense to you, but when is the right time to not have a broker and start working with a bank? So having like a facility where they're going, we can lend you up to 25 million or something.
So Sean, obviously in the position you're in, big time investor, you might have like a Lloyd's banking premier manager, for example, or Barclays or whoever. They have these premier kind of relationship managers. I'm just remembering now that back in the day, like when a bank manager was really important, like they'd come to your house and actually lend you money that way. That's similar now to what a premier banking manager is.
I used to be a premier manager.
Yeah, that's what. So I remember like my dad, he took out a loan from the bank once, and it wasn't like it is now online. He had the bank manager come to the house, made him some tea and biscuits, and that's it. And they actually had responsibility to sign deals off, right? Yeah. So if you've got that relationship, you can then get a facility agreed. You can then have like a portfolio loan. So they can say, look, we'll give you up to 500k. You just put properties in there. You can, refinance them out whenever. You can do it that way. I think the only thing is, let's say, I keep using Lloyd's because I've worked. Let's say you go to Lloyd's Bank, right, today. And they're going to tell you all about Lloyd's Bank products.
Sure.
The amazing mortgages they do.
Yeah.
But they're not going to say to you, this is what we do. But Barclays across the road, they've got a much lower interest rate. You should go there. Yeah. They're not going to, because why would they ever do that? I think that's the benefit of working with a broker. But I've had clients who've come to me who we've set up a relationship with a bridging lender. But then that client, he does the same kind of same cookie cutter project each and every time. And he's just gone direct next time around. It's annoying, but actually, is it in his best interest? Probably, because he's got that relationship now. That lender probably is the best lender for him because they understand him, his model, how he raises funds, and it works. So
definitely. So I've got another question here for you. What's one of your pet hates? What's the most common thing that people miss on an application?
My pet hate. Listen, I'm very irritable. I'm kind of moving into my annoyed Asian dad phase, right? So the pet hate for me is people who just can't or won't or don't fill in the forms properly. So, for example, when you ask about documents, there's also a fact find you have to fill in. Yep. Often this document is either like an online thing or there's a form, but it's a form of some sort. Typically about 8 A4 pages, yeah? I understand empathy, right? That if I saw 8 pages of, oh, God, a lot of work in it. But when you actually read it, it's not, you don't have to fill in all 8 pages. Some of it is like, if you're self-employed, use this page. So suddenly that's not 8 pages, that's 6 pages. But people who come back and say, I filled as much as I think is relevant. Well, it's all bloody relevant. I wouldn't ask you otherwise, yeah? And the problem is, it just slows things down because then I use that example of national insurance number. You don't fill it in. I'm going to come back and ask you for it. I need it for the application. So I like to have things moving slick, right? I wouldn't be where I am if things weren't going quickly and swiftly and smoothly, but it relies on the information I'm given. So people who ask things like, oh, is it all relevant? Yeah, it is. Like, just fill in the forms. And the way I try and word it sometimes is like, if you invest the time into putting this in, I can do my job properly.
What are some of the worst things people can do? Like maybe a lot of us are not aware of it, like missing a direct debit. It could be as small as a mobile phone. But how much do these things affect an application?
Yeah. One thing I want to say is, look, guys, if you get a parking ticket or a parking fine, pay it rather than just saying it's not your fault. In this country, it's so easy to get a CCJ for things like that. Once you get a CCJ, it's not game over, but it's like game expensive suddenly. So
I like that.
just pay it, yeah. Pay it and then maybe dispute it afterwards. But pay the damn thing. It's 30 quid or whatever it is in London, yeah.
No, it's more like 60 to 100 quid here.
Okay, so it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money, but is it worth ruining your financials, for the next
course.
6 years?
Of course.
Other things. So yeah, if you're missing phone bills, they tend not to show sometimes on your credit file. It's not the end of the world. But keep on top of your credit file. Have a look what's on there. Experian, Equifax, or there's a website called Check My File, which pulls from both.
Okay.
Check that every other month, or at least once a quarter.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, if you're going to buy a house to live in, right, which is different to an investment. If you're going to buy a house to live in, you normally plan 6 months beforehand anyway, right? Trying to get the deposit together.
Yeah.
Make sure your bank statements are clean. What lenders don't like is defaults. So if it's a late payment on a say a phone bill that is on your credit file, it's not the end of the world. But if that's suddenly gone to default where it's persistent, that's a problem. Let's say you've got a mortgage already and you're getting a buy to let, but you've had a late mortgage payment. That's a big issue because it's a secured debt. When it's unsecured, buy to let lenders can take a view. In Wales, right? In Wales, Welsh Water are notorious for sending their bills to the tenants, so to the rental property, not to the landlord.
Right.
And the amount of landlords then who've got defaults and sometimes CCJs because they don't. If I'm a tenant and I don't like my landlord anyway, I'm not going to pass that post on. Might not even open it. It's not in my name. So landlords don't get the notes to say this is overdue or this is the issue, and they get CCJs, they get defaults.
Oh wow!
And it's not in Wales. It is big. It's a big thing with Welsh Water.
Doesn't the tenant normally look after the bills?
I think in Wales, obviously, depends how you rent it out, right? But that happens a lot.
Right.
So keep on top of your credit file. You know what's on there. Also, make sure you get onto the voters roll where you live. So once a year or twice a year, you get letters in your house saying make sure you are registered. And again, if you're like me, you're quite lazy, you don't do it, but do it because it does help with your credit score as well.
Definitely.
I'm trying to think about other things to keep on top of. Those are the main things. It's just understand what is going on and plan ahead. Also, things like gambling. So if let's say you're on Camelot website doing scratch cards, that's okay. But when it looks like it's a persistent habit that is or could be getting worse, that's when a question might be raised by the underwriters to say, look, 6 months ago, you were spending 10 quid a week. Then he started spending 20 quid. Now, if it's a trend, it's an issue. And just speaking to your audience, OnlyFans, I get asked a lot now. So if you are subscribing to like OnlyFans or any kind of subscription service, it's only a problem when there's a trend that's getting worse and worse. So again, if your subscription was say, I don't know, 20 quid a month, and suddenly you're getting more and more and it's on your statements, that's when the question gets asked, is this going to be a habit that's going to affect your spending and affordability?
Wow, okay. That's a good one to know.
Everyone's cancelling their subscriptions right now, aren't they?
So what are the fees associated with a mortgage?
So, generally, so you got lenders will charge you an arrangement fee. That can be as low as like nothing, but can be as high as like 3-4% of the loan size gets added on to the loan on top. Then you've got a valuation fee. So when you buy a property, they will send someone independent to go out and value the property, make sure it's worth what you say it's worth. Then you've got legal fees, solicitors. So on a buy-to-let, you'll always pay for your solicitor as well as a lender solicitor. On a residential, you may get free legals. It depends. There's packages lenders put together just to lure you in. Then you've got broker fees. Some brokers charge, some don't. It depends who you work with. But if a broker does charge, just kind of understand up front early on. Just ask them, so what's your fee? When do I pay? Is it refundable? All these questions, ask them very early on. They should send you like a fee agreement just to sign as well to make sure you're happy with how that works. Stamp duty if you're buying an investment property, it's your second property that you're buying. And yeah, those are the main fees. I mean, bridging is where the fees get a lot more expensive.
Yeah. Being that you've mentioned bridging, let's touch on bridging because I'm quite risk averse. And I've always heard bridging finance is really, really
Go on, let's bust
risky.
some myths then. Okay.
Yeah, man. I've always heard that
Okay.
it's really risky and it's so expensive.
Mhm.
But what does that mean?
I know. Okay,
what
so
does that even mean?
first myth I hear all the time is bridging is risky. If they'll take the house away.
Yeah.
If you don't pay your mortgage, what's going to happen?
Yeah, they're repossessed.
Same difference, right?
Sure.
However, in the real world, they would actually rather work with you and give you an extension on the bridge. So with a bridging loan, it's typically 6 to 12 months, depending on what you're doing.
Is that flexible?
Yeah, I can see as long as 18, 24 months. Depends on the project.
Do you have to agree it before?
Correct. Yeah. So what happens with the bridge, right? Let's say you agree a term of 9 months. It depends on the project. Let's say 9 months. You pay back in 6 months. You only pay back interest for the 6 months. You're not penalized. But on the flip side, if you agree a term of 9 months, you're on month 8 and you're like, this project is going way over, the builders let me down and blah blah blah. You're not going to get repossessed. It doesn't happen. I mean, very rare occasion it happens. What would happen instead is you'll have to extend your bridging loan, and they'll do it because they're suddenly going to charge you like a 4% renewal fee, and you're going to have to pay the interest each month on a direct debit. It's, to repossess, you have to go through solicitors and all the fees involved in doing that. It's not worth it for the lender. They'll just extend your loan, but charge you more.
So it's an arrangement fee that they will charge
Yeah.
you. So for example, if that was 100,000 and they charged you 4%, you're getting charged $4,000
on top, and then the interest you have to pay each month on a direct debit. So normally with a bridging loan, with the interest, you don't pay each month. You just add it on at the end. Then
What is a typical arrangement fee?
On a bridging loan, 2%, 2% arrangement fee normally. But yeah, with paying the interest each month, it's not convenient because if you've got an empty property, you're paying your builders, and now suddenly you've got to find £800 a month, £1,000 a month on top to pay the lender. Suddenly, that's not very practical.
What is the most like in terms of when someone's taken a bridge? What are the worst case scenarios that you've sort of seen?
I mean, I've seen a few bridges go over recently, especially because of the whole. Listen, people can blame what they want. Blame COVID, blame the war in Ukraine. There's always the reasons things go over. But yeah, I've seen a few bridging loans go over. Lenders will just extend. I've not seen anywhere the house has been repossessed or anything. But then again, I think investors tend to get a bit panicked, especially if they're not getting the right counselling, as it were, to say this is in real terms. This is what it means. Just work with the lender and just extend it. But you wouldn't be in this position if you took out a term longer than what you thought you needed. Right now, like where we are today, I will not put someone on a bridging loan for 6 months. It's not long enough. The refinance takes 3 months. If the bill's taking you, say, 9 weeks, yeah, it's too tight. 9 months as a minimum, 12 months ideally.
And can you reduce them fees if the loan's quite high? So if somebody said, "Oh, I need to borrow 800,000," for example, can you reduce that fee of
yes 2%? And no? let me let you into a little insider secret.
Yeah.
You know the 2% arrangement fee.
Yes.
With bridging lenders, they give 1% or something of that to the broker as a procuration fee.
Okay.
Listen, most brokers won't do this. I do because if it's 1% of 800,000, that's £8,000. Yeah. Okay, I've helped you with this bridging loan, but have I done £8,000 worth of work? Probably not. If I'll be totally honest, I probably haven't. Yeah.
Yeah.
So on some occasions, depending on the size of the loan or the relationship I have with the client already, I might say to the lender, look, that 2%, do you want to reduce it to 1.5%? So you're getting charged less. I'm still making £4,000. And you can do it that way. So lenders are not going to reduce it because of how much you're borrowing. They've got money and they just want a return. But based on your relationship with the broker, they might be able to do something. Very, very rare. People are now going to go in and try and negotiate with their broker, aren't they?
What about in terms of, do you do any deals where you can go on a bridging and there's some sort of residential buy-to-let sort of mortgage waiting at the end of it as well?
Yeah, so they call that a bridge to let.
Yeah.
Now, this is good for first-time investors who are a bit concerned about bridging. Essentially, all that happens is it's slower than a bridging loan. So what the main benefit, or one of the benefits of bridging, is it's fast. Mortgage takes 3 months, bridging takes 3 weeks, right? But with the bridge to let, the underwriter is if it is a mortgage. And on day one, you get the offer for the mortgage and the bridge. The valuer values it now, and he confirms what the end value is going to be based on the work, the schedule of works you give them. Once the work's finished, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, you just call them out, do a quick re-inspection, tick the box, and you're onto the mortgage. You save 3 months worth of interest because you're not refinancing, you're just drawing down the mortgage funds. So there are those products. They're better for light refurbishments. If you're doing like a 9-bed HMO conversion or a commercial conversion, they won't do them anyway. For something quite light, it's a good way of testing the waters, see how you get on with bridging.
When is a good time to get a bridge arranged? So I'm going to auction now, and I know I've got 10% to put down. So this place is 100,000. I haven't got a mortgage or cash
Yeah.
ready. I've got 10,000 to put down as deposit. I've got 30 days to get that money arranged.
Yeah.
Am I coming after? I've got I've got it accepted, and I say, by the way, I got this accepted. Here's my 10% that's been down already. I need 90 grand
Yeah.
now, Shaz, and
Sort it out.
can I have it in 15, 20 days now?
So most people come to me probably normally a week before the auction. They say, Shaz, this is the auction listing. This is what I'm interested in. This is my max bid. This is what I'm going to do to it. This is the end value. What the numbers look like. You can give them an idea, a quick quote. Because most investors don't have enough money to get into a deal in the first place. Once I give someone a bridging quote, they don't come back because, I didn't realize I need to put this much money in.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So there's that loss of business there, but it's fine. Here's what the numbers look like. Okay, great. I'll be like, come back to me when you're successful. So then once the hammer falls and you've put your 10% away, then you get back in touch. You can't do too much beforehand because the lender can't go out and value the property before auction anyway.
Yeah.
But what also helps, right? With auctions is once you get past, let's say you are 30-day completion and you're on day 30 and you're near the end, but it hasn't happened. For the seller to kind of then take action, they call it a notice to serve period.
Right.
So they have to give another 10 days to serve notice on you and take the property back.
Right.
That extra 10 days helps a lot.
Okay. So look, I'm taking a risk right now, and I'm putting £10,000 down. You said you can potentially get the a bridge for me. How can I mitigate some of the risks now, like in terms of like getting that loan for sure? Because I'm in limbo right now. Like, if I'm sweating,
Sleepless nights.
Yeah, exactly. Is it? Are you sure you're going to get this loan for me? Like, what are the things that you're up against? That will stop it from happening?
Read the legal pack. If there's things on the legal pack that are going to make this property hard to refinance, bridging you can get. Anyone can give you a bridging loan. It's how you're going to come off that bridge is the issue, right?
Okay.
So read the legal pack. Are there any restrictions on the title? Are there any charging orders? Is there anything on there that's unusual? If that property was kosher and good, it probably wouldn't be on an auction anyway. Do you know what I mean? There's something about this that's made it go into auction. What's the sale history like? Has this been on sale before? Pardon me. Has it been on sale before and it's fallen through? Like, what's gone on? And the other thing is, get your paperwork in order. When you approach the broker, here's my proof of funds, here's my ID, let's get going. And often, you send an investor kind of your rates and they say, so what's going to cost. And these days, I'm finding a lot. Oh, is this definitely the best one we can get? You haven't got time to ask those questions when you got 30 days to get the money. I'm sure, and trust your broker. They're not going to give you the second best option. What's the benefit? Just crack on, pay the fees, get things moving. So understand, lenders are not going to start working until their fees are paid.
Okay, nice. What are the consequences, or when people have a missed payment, and so you can sort of see like someone's been late paying one of their direct debits, and they come into you for a mortgage and they want the best deal? How have I been impacted now?
Yeah, I mean, on residential mortgages, lenders will look at credit history and credit kind of profiles. It depends on what you've been missing and how often. Are you a persistent person who misses a lot? You'll find lenders will have certain tolerances. The worse off your credit profile is, the more specialist lenders you're going to have to work with. So if you're completely clean, of course, high street. If then you've got a few issues, you might have to go off the high street, and there's loads of lenders. You realize there's so many people lending money. So it depends what it is. If it's if it's secured like another mortgage or car finance, that's a big problem.
Okay.
On a buy to let, the lenders are way more flexible. They can take a view on it. And again, it depends what it is.
Can I still remortgage with somebody else if I've missed one or two payments with my existing one, but I've caught up, and then they're telling me to refix?
Yeah.
Is it still okay to come to you and say, can you refinance this property, or is it better to stay with my existing lender?
So yeah, when it comes to like refixing, so say let's say you've got a mortgage, you got your 2-year fixed rate, and you come to the end of the 2 years. Unless you want to borrow more money because the value might have gone up, often it might just make more sense to stick with your current lender. The reason is they're not going to do a full application. They're not going to come out and value the house, not going to ask you for any documents, and it takes a week. Versus, okay, now look at all the lenders, you've got to pay all the fees, full application, 3 months. So yeah, unless you're borrowing more money, sometimes it's just better to stay with who you are.
I've got some equity in my property.
Everyone says that.
Is it better to take a further advance, or shall I come to you for a second charge?
Good question. No, you've done your research there. the answer to all these questions is it depends. It depends on your circumstances. So I would say 9 times out of 10, a further advance is always most cost effective. You stick with your current lender, no solicitor fees, valuation will do, but it's all in house and it's quite quick.
Sometimes they even just do a book valuation.
They just do like
They
a
don't even need to
desktop
come
thing.
out.
Yeah, exactly. And it's quick and easy and it's all in house. The only challenge sometimes is if you're borrowing on your residential mortgage to buy a buy to let, some lenders class that as business use and they don't lend for business purposes. But it depends how you position it. So if you said to them, the money's going to be used to expand my property portfolio, that's business use. If you say to them, yeah, I'm going to buy to let to rent out, they may be like, oh, that's fine. It really honestly depends on the wording that you use.
Wow.
And that's not even mortgage fraud. That's not like a deception thing. That's just, how they look at it. But then, yeah, let's say that happens and lenders like, oh, we don't lend for business use, can't do it. Or, you can't get the further advance. Then you should always compare a remortgage with a second charge. Pros and cons are second charges are more expensive. But if let's say you're borrowing an extra 25k, it's only expensive on that extra 25k, not the whole thing, right? Second charge lenders can also take a bit more risk, a bit more flexible. So if you have got missed payments, they're usually okay with it. Versus the remortgage will be generally a cheaper rate, but it's reborrowing the whole lot of money again. You might have an early repayment charge on your current mortgage with your current lender. You may have an attractive interest rate. You might be interest only. So it's worth comparing. The answer is it depends.
Okay, nice. One of my pet hates is when one of my mortgages has come up,
Yeah.
and I just get this letter through the post, and it says your direct debit's jumped up to this amount,
Yeah.
and then contacting your broker or the bank, and then trying to refix it, and then you've missed the next payment, so you jump from like £400 to nearly £1,100 until you fix it again, back to 600 or something. Do you have relationship with any of your clients? Do you diarize when people are up for the renewals before and say, hey, look, your mortgage is coming up in the next few months. We can look at this now and get something in place.
Yeah.
Like, how do you manage that?
I think it's if you don't manage it, I think you're in the wrong job. If I'm honest, because that's part of your job is for long term, relationship building, and you want that repeat business. So yeah, I normally put it in 3 months before the renewal. I was doing that up until the start of the new year, but I think 3 months is not long enough. Doing 4 months now.
Okay.
And it is like you say, just a quick email or a call. So like that mortgage we did 2 years ago is now ending. Should we look at other options? And often they investors don't realize, or they may have it in their diary at the end date, which like you say is too late.
It's too late. Yeah. No, it's absolutely like key and important because we've got 101 things going on. First of all, to just look at that, when's my mortgage coming out? You've got your family, your job, expenses.
You want it to
food,
be passive,
exactly. And then another thing, there comes to a stage when you're a portfolio landlord and you've got bloody 18, 19 mortgages going out, and you're thinking, what one's which? And what account numbers which, and what's coming up for renewal. So you want someone.
Yeah,
who's
and the way I look at it is, I charge fees, broker fees. I'm thinking if someone's paying me a fee, we should be giving them a holistic experience, and essentially their finance part of their property business is covered with the fee they're paying.
Now, look, I know the market's been heavily hit recently. The Bank of England's base rate's gone up. That means the banks are borrowing at a higher rate themselves, so they're going to be passing that on to potentially passing that on to new people on the market. Mortgages are not around the 1.5, 1.9 when you're
Not
hitting the
anymore.
best, sort of brackets in terms of loan to value, and now we're going to be paying a lot more. But I'm a first time buyer and I want to get into the market. Shaz, what are you going to do for me? What are some deals that are out now? Is there? I know this is going to be. It's going to change every week,
Yes.
even daily, even. But what are some of the deals that people are still going to be expecting? Because there's a lot of people are on the fence. They go, I don't know if I'm going to get into property now. I'm going to wait for things to calm down. But they might be missing a lot of deals in front of them that are 20% under market value. And they might not even know, hang on, I might be able to get this, or that could really help me. Like the interest rate might be higher, but I might be getting free things on the side. Can you let us know about anything good happening in the market right now?
Very good kind of question. Glad you asked. So there's a lot happening. I think for residential people, first time buyers, the government is keen people to get on the ladder. Believe it or not, despite everything you see, they do want people to buy houses for themselves. And even now, you could approach if you see like new build developments. Often these developers will have schemes where they can get you on. They'll sell it to you at a discount or give you like a 5% deposit or some sort of equity thing where they keep a certain equity in the property and you put down a lower deposit. My kind of opinion on that, and I don't do many residential mortgages. My opinion though is, I see what you're saying about you might miss a deal, but I also think being patient also has its place in terms of it's a positioning thing. So if someone comes to me and says, I've got a 50,000 deposit and that's all I've got for deposit and fees, right? It's different to someone saying, Shaz, I've got 75k. How can I use that in the best way? Do you know what I mean? It's a completely different way of approaching it. And when you're in that saving mode, you'd be surprised how much you can save. You can probably save $3,000 a month.
Yeah.
And if you do that for a couple of months, you've suddenly got a bigger pot to play with.
Sure.
So I wouldn't rush into buying, especially your first home. And I know the risk is I see people who go for reviewing and they get emotionally attached.
Yeah.
So when you buy a car, you're like, oh, I really want that car. Like,
racing red.
yeah, that's it. You're in the car now. You can't go anywhere else. And it's like, so I think be patient. Try and build your deposit. If you've got a 10% deposit, have 15 ready because you never know. You never know. And with regards to buy to lets, the way I look at it again is I see the people now. Yeah, the rates are expensive and the deals, but it's like right now, based on that interest rate and the numbers, does the deal work? Are you making some money? Like, yeah. Okay, well, if the deal works now, it's going to work forever because now is the worst time. Is one of the worst times you'll see.
True.
We're not going to get those low interest rates again for a long time. Rates are settling, and there's obviously Bank of England base rate that affects tracker mortgages that track the base rate.
Do you see mortgage rates? Do you see the base rate going up anymore?
I think they probably will go up one more time. Yeah.
By 0.5%, 1/4%, 1%.
Half or one. I'm glad it is going up in big chunks, I'll be honest, because it stops all that little, what's the word? I can't think of the word without swearing, but all that messing around was like 0.25%, just go up. If you want it to go up, just go up. And then people can deal with the shock factor, rather than 0.25%. It's just delaying the inevitable, right?
Yeah.
So I think we'll see another increase. So the base rate increasing, that affects tracker mortgages, the base rate.
Sure.
When it comes to fixed rate mortgages, what a lot of people don't realize is lenders lend each other money. Well, they lend your money to each other, right? And they call that a swap rate. Now, swap rates have actually been going down. They've only started to come back up again. I was doing some research earlier, but they have been coming down now. So the actual fixed rates, they're coming back down again. So, again, when I say down, you're looking at maybe 0.5%, 1/4%. We're not going to see those 1.5% on resi and 3% on buy-to-lets for a while.
Mm-hmm. Are there any good first-time buyers deals out right now on your panel that you've seen?
Yeah, and again, it's the high street lenders. They're keen to lend the money. And you know what? I understand why they're keen. If they're giving you an interest rate on your savings of 0.01%, they want to lend it out and to make more money on a mortgage. So yeah, first time buyers like Halifax, Barclays. So Barclays do something called a springboard mortgage.
Okay.
From memory, because I used to work with Barclays, hopefully I know this. A springboard mortgage is where you get a family member, so parents, uncle, family, whatever. They put down 15% into a savings account, and that is there. It stays there. You put down a 5% deposit. And then after, I think it's 3 or 4 years, as long as you've made all your payments, the family member gets that money back plus interest, and then you've still got your house.
Oh, wow, that's really good. Another thing that Barclays used to do is something called an offset mortgage.
Yep, still available.
And they still do that?
They still do it. So it's only for residential mortgages, an offset mortgage. And again, this is from memory. So it allows you to, again, put a big pot of savings in. And then the interest that you would earn on that savings, that can go towards either reducing your monthly payments or the term of the mortgage overall. It doesn't work for everyone. You've got to have a good bit of savings in relation to your balance. But they've got a very helpful calculator on their website that you can use and just figure out if it's worth doing.
And that's great with flexibility when you're an investor, because certain times we're sitting on a lot of cash.
Yeah.
And so when you've got your residential there, you've got a debt here, and you might have equal amount of cash in the bank. So it means you're not really paying any interest. Instead of earning interest on that money, it's reducing it off your mortgage. And then all of a sudden you see a deal come along. Hey, I've already got my mortgage arranged. It's there already, but I get to buy this next investment.
Yeah.
I always found that good with the higher network sort of clients.
Yeah, it works with people who are a bit more cash fluid, I suppose.
Can I ask, you probably do mortgages all over the country.
Yeah.
Like for example, like How many applications have you got going on at the moment?
I believe currently 42.
Okay, so you're seeing mortgages all over the country, some big, medium, small. Sorry, can I ask, is there a minimum that somebody can take out with you?
Not with me per se, but generally in terms of lenders, 50k purchase price. So
Sure.
you're borrowing 37,500.
Okay. Where's some of the highest yielding places that you've seen? Because you're actually doing the
Yeah, I
applications.
mean it's still the same up north or South Wales. And again, even in Wales right now, even after everything, you can still pick up a decent 2 bed for like £80,000, 85k, which
Right.
doesn't need that much doing to it. And I think the thing with refurbs is, if you're a social media investor, you'll do your whole black taps, white walls, grey, you'll do all of that. That's probably not going to increase the value of the house much. It'll get you a little bit more rent, but it's not going to increase the value. The way to add value to a house is to make it bigger, in real terms, to make it bigger or fix a problem that's wrong with
Or
it.
reconfigure it, add another bedroom or
Yeah, add another
something.
bedroom. So add more livable space.
Sure.
Loft conversions are one of the best ways to add value to a property.
Okay. And where in the north are some of the highlighted areas that you'd look at?
Hull. I mean, if I was going to invest and I had enough capital, I'd probably do a HMO conversion in Birmingham in the Midlands. Coventry. I've got an investor who does loads in Coventry. Again, cookie cutter model, turns a 4-bed house into a 6-bed HMO. Might do an extension every now and then, and the model just works. But then I'd probably want someone to manage it. I don't want any headache with tenants.
Absolutely. Okay. So we're looking up north in Hull or South Wales.
I mean, what's your thoughts on service accommodation? That's again in terms of cash flow and so on. Would you
Serviced accommodation in terms of putting it on booking.com and
Airbnb? Yeah,
Airbnb. I don't know. I've heard that it's becoming a saturated market as well because everyone's sort of doing
everyone's
it,
doing it.
and also some of the platforms are starting to take advantage of it also. So I know there was an app that automatically puts it on booking.com and on Airbnb,
Yeah,
but apparently somebody was saying to me the other day, I was doing a live and she goes, the rate the phone calls I'm getting are really low now again, and
yeah,
my places are in central, so it depends because it's quite hot and it's a strategy that everyone's teaching, and you can do it from a rent to rent. And if you're earning £150 a day in London, in 10 days that's £1,500. In a month that's
yeah.
4,500. If you're renting a typical house for 2 grand, you're making 2.5 grand. Maybe a cleaner will cost you 500, and maybe a couple of hundred for bills. You're making the best part of £1,500
Yeah.
without even owning the property.
That's it.
However, are are what's it called? These platforms going to start earning commission from you?
Well, they
You know,
take commission, but
they
I
take
think the
commission
strategy is to once you have a guest is to get them onto your own portal. So if you book direct, they'll give
Absolutely.
you 10% off or something. But I had an interesting conversation with TJ, our mutual friend, TJ Atkinson,
Oh yeah,
on my podcast, and he was explaining that the reason he likes that as a strategy is if you use £100,000 house as an example, you've got to find a 25% deposit, it's £25,000. And that house on a single let basis will make you, after all the fees and costs, probably 300 quid a month or thereabouts.
yeah.
Whereas that 25 grand could go to maybe 3 rent to service accommodations, making you, after all costs, about 800 quid a month each. So it's a cash flow versus capital appreciation thing, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, it's definitely a good way to get some cash in the bank. So if I was going to start right now, I probably would look at, I'd be a property entrepreneur rather than a property owner.
This is it, man. I
You
speak to a
know,
lot of investors, new investors, and I find the life cycle, is they come to me, they want to invest, look at bridging, they realize they haven't got enough money to get into the bridge. Then I speak to them 6 months later or see them at a networking event, and now they're either deal sourcing or they're doing rent to rent. They build enough cash, then they do deals where they actually
yeah.
invest.
I mean, it's a great way to get some cash in the bank. But more than that, it's a great way to gain experience in how to manage a tenant, how to manage problems, because what people don't talk enough about are the issues that you get. So has somebody broken something in your property and you have to go and replace it? Is somebody complaining about, hey, I didn't get any parking space outside? Is someone
Yeah.
complaining about, hey, I checked in, I know it was 12 o'clock at night, but it was a long drive and I got stuck in traffic, but your neighbor started shouting at me? These are the things that
That's it. It's more
you're in
hands-on, isn't
for.
it? You
So
often.
these are the skills that you'll be learning most of all, and you've just got to see what is the best way For me personally, back in the day, I was just a workhorse. So I just worked in two different jobs to get a cash pot together and learned that way. But I suppose I was quite fortunate because I saw my dad and my uncle start investing properties, and I saw how they did some ASTs. And occasionally a tenant would come to the shop and say, I've got this problem. And then me and my dad would go and I'm putting a plastic bag over my hand to unblock a drain or something, or
Yeah.
putting one shot in to unblock drain
Okay.
pipes or something like that. And maybe that's why I've kind of let it go past to say, hey, I don't need to do a sort of rent to rent. But during 2015, I had potentially about 50 rooms in Stratford actually
Really?
doing this whole sort of business model, and a couple were my father's. So I went to my dad and I went, look, I know you've got that big property over there and over there. I've just converted three of my houses, 5 there, 6 there, another 6 there, bedrooms. I've got a model where I can start advertising this on. It was more spare room then,
Okay.
a little bit on Airbnb during the Easter and Christmas months when it got a bit quiet. When people finish uni around summertime, it wasn't to get rich or anything. It was just the fact that everyone's finished uni from University of East London. I've got all these rooms empty.
Yeah.
What the
What you
hell am I
do?
gonna
Yeah,
do?
yeah.
And so you're like, hey, let me put it on Airbnb. And then you realize, actually, it's recommending me to charge a higher price. So I put that on, and somebody's gone, hey, we're coming from, good day, mate. We come from Australia.
Can we stay for a month?
Can we come here for like 3 or 4 days? And
Yeah.
we're traveling to central London. And I was like, 150, 300, I've covered my whole rent for the month. And so it wasn't like I'm going to do this for the next 30 days. It was more like, phew, I've covered my rent for that.
That's
So
it.
the pressure's off, and anything else is a
It's
bonus now.
bonus, yeah.
And that's how I sort of used to run it, but now it's become a thing.
Yeah, Matt, I totally agree. I don't use Airbnb much though. I prefer hotels. You know what it is? I think it's so look at Airbnb, right? You see like a nice apartment, 100 quid, hotel, maybe a bit more. It's when you try and book it, and it's like plus cleaning fee of 50 quid. I don't know why they charge extra for a cleaning fee. It should be part of the overall the all in cost. I think anyway.
Yeah. Well, I think
Hotels don't charge you for cleaning, do they?
if you're going for a model through Airbnb and Booking.com, you should provide something that's all inclusive, because nobody likes a hidden charge or an added charge after. When you go into a property, you're going to make some sort of mess.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I don't know what kind of
Yeah.
mess, but
Well, it's normally food for me.
yes.
Yeah.
Let's see if we've got a couple of final questions, because I know all of my viewers are going to be loving you at the moment because you're answering every question in the book. Yeah, let's hope you get some leads from this as well. Okay, so what's the maximum sort of minimum mortgage you said was about 50,000, 37.5 is
Yeah.
what you can do. So that's potentially, if you're buying a property for 50,000, Shaz can have a little look at that for you. What's the max mortgage you can go up to?
Whatever you want, really. So on a residential, the amount you can borrow is dictated by your income. Typically, you can borrow about 4.5 times your income,
Sure.
plus your deposit. Then you got your property value.
So that basically means if you've got 100,000, 4.5 times, you can borrow about 450,000.
Yeah.
And then if you've got a partner with their salary, you can,
Yeah.
that is a combined income together. Then you times that number by 4.5.
Absolutely. Then add your deposit on top to look at your budget for the house you're looking at. On a buy to let, the amount you can borrow is controlled by the rental. They do like a stress test.
Yeah.
People always say to me, "So what's the stress test?" The investor, I'm like, you don't need to worry about it. Like, you're not going to walk around calculating it. But in general, so just add some value.
Yeah.
Lenders will want the rent to cover the interest-only mortgage payment, but at a stressed ratio of 125 or 145%. That depends on your tax bracket and whether it's a limited company or not. But they also don't use, say your mortgage rate is going to be 5%. They don't use that rate. They use a stressed rate of, say, 7 or 8% as well.
Right. Apart from the fact that you've got 200, 300, 400 lenders on your books.
Yes.
Yeah. Why should I choose you over the bank?
Well, yeah. One thing is obviously, yeah, you look at the whole market, look at everyone. Second thing is, I guess, availability and responsiveness. So if you are working with a bank or a call center, perhaps then they're going to work 9 to 5, probably not do weekends, maybe do a Saturday, whereas a broker might be available all the time. Secondly, about relationships, and I think especially when you're investing, you want someone who knows the pain points of what you're doing. And obviously, if someone's done that loads of times, they kind of can preempt any potential red flags. look, this is going to be an issue. Let's iron this out now before a lender sees it. It's about experience, relationships, responsiveness, and value for money as well, I suppose.
Definitely. 100. Well, I always see value in working with someone who's a little bit more personal. I don't like going to a bank and then once you've seen that advisor and then it's somebody in the back end, and
Yeah,
I like a point of contact. And it's very important because, it is a very lonely journey. You're the only one who's sort of buying this house, unless you're joint venturing or with your partner, but you want a point of contact to know what's going on, especially when you're sort of new. And you want somebody who can holistically see your situation, an expert who deals with this all the time. That's all they do, nothing else. And they can look at you and go, well, actually, I can see all of your needs here, and I've got a lender who's actually, going to help you with these needs because that's what they're looking for you
yeah,
also. So you're that relationship manager between the two.
yeah. And obviously, we've got, so between myself and a bank, we'll have a business relationship manager as well. And often, you as a client will never know. But in between, I'm fighting loads of fires, saying, look, this is Sean. This is maybe one thing on his issue, but look, can we just sort it out? We'll sort that out, but you wouldn't even realize it's been done. But because we've got that relationship, we're leveraging that, sorting out any problems before they even happen.
And I suppose they probably have some refreshers with you as well, right?
Oh, all the time, yeah.
Like they call you out for a
Meals
meal
out in
or
London, you know
something,
how it is.
to tell you all about
Yeah.
it. So is it more expensive in having a buy-to-let mortgage in a company rather than having it in my personal name?
From a mortgage perspective, it used to be quite a big difference. Right now, the difference is quite minimal. The typical cheapest kind of buy-to-let lenders were like Birmingham Midshires, the Mortgage Works in personal names. But yeah, the rate difference, there is a difference. It's all cheaper, but by 1%, if that.
Okay.
Mm.
Most my mortgages are with them lot as well.
Yeah.
What about commercial mortgages? What falls under a commercial mortgage? So how would I know if I need a commercial mortgage for this place now? And what are the typical rates and fees?
Yeah. So when it comes to investors, right, there's all this jargon and terminology. People say, I want a commercial mortgage, and they think they want a commercial mortgage because it's got a HMO. But it depends. So it depends what you mean by commercial mortgage. But yeah, typically anything that's retail or a shop or an office that needs a commercial mortgage because there's a commercial aspect to that unit. You could have flats and a shop below. That's a semi-commercial mortgage. But yeah, a lot of investors will say, I've got this 9-bed HMO, I want a commercial mortgage. What they mean is they want a lender that does a valuation based on the income as a business rather than just a house valuation. So that's all possible as well. But yeah, when it comes to lending for retail, so actual commercial space, the appetite is there. Lenders want you to have a little bit of experience. Typically looking at 70% loan to value, so you have to have a 30% deposit. Rates again are creeping down. I'm seeing rates about 7.5%, 7%.
Still
Which,
quite expensive.
listen, it's
Nah.
expensive. I think if you can get a semi-commercial,
Yeah.
and if then the residential element can cover the mortgage, like you say, the rest is all profit.
So if it's a semi-commercial, it comes under a commercial mortgage, right?
It's a semi-commercial mortgage.
Okay.
And what the lenders want is they want the residential to basically cover everything.
Sure.
And then there's more flexibility on what's downstairs. They don't really care if there's no lease in
Okay. Is
place.
the rates any different on a semi-commercial?
Slightly lower. Slightly lower.
Okay.
Yeah. But the strategies I'm seeing people do now, especially around here as well, is they're doing commercial conversion. So it's an old bank or whatever. They're keeping it as a commercial downstairs. But then upstairs, they're doing multiple flats.
Yeah.
Because then you've got 4 lots of income. You don't have to go through HMO regulations or planning. And then there's more cash flow that way.
Do you have any model where a bank can come in and have a little look at any PD development rights and say, look, I know this is a bank right now, but we know what the PD rights are in this area and you can get 4 flats out of this. Do you have anyone who's a little bit more adventurous like that?
I mean, you're looking then at development finance and bridging finance. So we can do a development loan with a lender, and we can say to them, look, when you instruct your surveyor, give them these 3 different potential schemes. So under PD, we'll do this, under planning, we'll do this, and if we don't get either, we'll just do this. And we want 3 different end valuations from them. So that surveyor will go out, give you 3 different figures at the end, and you can see if the deal works or not based on what they've said.
One of my last sort of questions, Shaz, is I don't know anything about property. I've watched a few podcasts. I've got some information from here. I don't really know how to put it all together. I want to go to a few property courses or get myself educated.
Yeah.
Is there any that you'd recommend? And what are some red flags here?
So I'm not going to recommend anyone specifically because look, I think with any kind of education or anyone that's promising you to get rich quick, that's a red flag because property isn't get rich quick. It's definitely a long game. So that's the first thing. A red flag is if anyone says you can get rich quick, get rich in 7 days, get rich financially free, whatever. That's nonsense. When you are going to courses, obviously ask as many questions about the actual trainer as possible. Are they doing just if they're talking about service accommodation, but their portfolio is HMOs, then why are they talking about service accommodation? So try and grasp about the actual educator. Anyone who's half decent will happily talk to you about their strategies and what they're doing and why they're legit. Um, Reviews, get as many reviews as possible. Social media, check out their social media channels. Are they making more money from training or their portfolio? Because it is easier to sell a course than it is to actually invest in property and make it work. So those are the things I'd look at, and also network. So there's education and there's networking. You might go to a networking event and meet someone who could maybe mentor you through your journey, but you never know unless you go. So
What would be sort of typical fees that you would probably want to look at if you were going to get into property and just wanting to know basically how to get into it and a couple of strategies?
I mean, I know, for example, PIN, Property Investors Network, they do something called MMA, which is a mastermind accelerator. It's a weekend. I think they charge $4,000 for that, but that allows two people to come, so partners or business partners, whatever. It's not bad. And I know what they do in that is they cover all the strategies. The aim is by the end of that weekend, you'll know which one you want to go with, and you pay for their $20,000 super course. Don't pay $20,000. I
They're coming
know.
after you now.
Yeah, I'm gonna be banned. Or there's others. Yeah, there's Progressive do the same kind of thing. Multiple streams of income, MSOPR, whatever. They got all these weird names. Same thing. Talk about all the strategies. You figure out which one you want, and you pay for their super course. All upselling. So if you go in there, go with an open mind. Leave your credit card at home. Absorb all the information because often the free stuff is better than the paid stuff. Because once you're paying, you're in that funnel. They do care, but not as much as when they want to grab you into that funnel, right?
Okay. Is there a question that you wish I asked you?
It's a question. No, Sean, this has been a really good podcast.
Good grilling.
Yeah, you've been a really good grilling, personal and business as well.
Yeah, wanted to find out because I think it is important to get a little bit personal because there's hundreds of mortgage brokers out there. So why should
That's the thing. Listen, mortgage brokers. My God, we should have a whole conversation about mortgage brokers. So some of the marketing on brokers that I see is so bad, and I think if if you see a broker and their advertising is, "I'm a mortgage broker. I'm directly authorized. I've got access to 90 lenders," that means nothing. I don't know what that's like. Thanks for existing. They've got. I wish people were a bit more creative, and doesn't mean about doing videos or social media. It means about why you, like you said, there's hundreds of mortgage brokers. No one's struggling, so the market is massive. But why would you want to use me versus you or whatever? It's about that personal connection, not how many lenders you've got. And the example I use, like let's say we talk about bridging, yeah. Mortgage brokers start the estate agency. They don't do bridging. They don't see it. Now, so does it matter that he's got 90 lenders on his books or not? What matters is what do you do day in, day out?
Mhm.
Does that fit with what I want to do?
Yeah,
Let's crack on.
definitely. What I want to know with my broker is what type of person is he? Does he actually care or am I just a number on his book?
Exactly.
Because there is an element, yeah, obviously you need to switch off and 8, 9 o'clock you don't want to be hearing from me while you're having your dinner and spending with your family, etc. But at the same time, if I'm messaging you in the evening, hi mate, I hope you're good. I just had these few questions, or can I have an update? Could you let me know sometime in the next 24 hours or something?
Let me ask you, do you voice note or do you message?
I normally leave a message.
That's okay.
Yeah.
No, I like that. Voice notes, oh
Voice
my
notes
God,
are
don't
a
add in.
little. Yeah, I'm a bit old. I am very old school.
So
If you did business with me, I'd like, yeah, can we have it black and white? And I want
send me an email so there's a thread.
there's some sort of
Yeah.
paper trail, and yeah, I'm a very shrewd businessman.
Yeah.
But I think you have to be if you're gonna master your craft.
Mhm.
You got to know every single left, right, down, up, what's happening and tight ship, because it's the only way you're gonna get anywhere. You have to penny pinch, and I think I learned that of my parents and how shrewd they were. They just stuck to the point, because as soon as you let a little bit go, it starts all going wavy, and then when things start going wrong, it's like compounding. It's like things don't just add up, it compounds.
Yeah.
It's not like 2, 4, 6, 8, 10.
No.
It starts going 2, 4, 8, 16, 32. Like, and before you know it, you've lost the game. So, it's very important.
And it's the same, I think, with me in my industry is, great, I'm getting all this feedback on social media, very grateful, but I'm only as good as my last deal. It just takes one other client to say, you know what, Shaz is terrible. And that could end things. I mean, hopefully it won't, but it is as simple as that.
Sometimes you're only good as your last deal,
Absolutely.
especially with things moving on. Do you think AI could replace your job?
Yes and no to a certain degree. In terms of, when it comes to mortgages, specifically mortgages, not bridging mortgages, all mortgage brokers will use a sourcing system. And I'll be honest, like, I'm transparent as I don't care. So a sourcing system means you filled in your form. I transpose or data entry some of the key bits into the sourcing system. It spits out the results. But that isn't the be all and end all, because obviously from those results, the mortgage broker has to then make sure you fit the criteria for the lender. So there is that human touch. I can see AI replacing that though. So doing the sourcing, coming back with the cheapest and to most cost
Which is a
effective.
good thing, right?
Yeah, but then I
Stops
think
human error now.
stops human error. But what they can't do, I suppose, is filter out criteria.
Right.
So, for example, if you had missed a credit card payment,
Yeah.
and the cheapest lender is the mortgage works, I know as a human they don't lend because of that. AI may not.
Okay. Is there any question you'd like to ask me, Shaz? Because you see me on social media for a little while now.
Yeah.
You might have seen some posts, some reels, a little bit of my story, different podcasts, other people on my podcast. Is there anything you want to say? Well, here's the new boy on the block. I want to see if he's real or not, or what, or I'd just like to ask him a question.
No, sure. I'm going to ask you a question I ask guests on my podcast.
Okay.
So, when was the last time you did something for the first time?
When was the last time that I did something for the first time? That's a very
Drakey question, isn't it?
It's a very, very good question. Very, very good question. I suppose in this industry that I'm going into now, in social media, I'm meeting a lot of people. So I think on my last podcast, well, this is not something really new, but I got on really well with my last guest as well, and he had a bit of time, and we just went straight for lunch, and we actually went from a social media to actually sort of some sort of business talk regarding, you mentioned this in the podcast. I also do this. Is there any way we can align and actually sort of skill share? Because I've noticed you do a little bit of this, and I think you could do a little bit better. And I've actually done a few courses, and also I would like to know a little bit of this, and maybe we can sort of skill
Yeah.
share. And I suppose the thing the first thing that I did last time was actually I did go to I don't think I've ever been to many courses unless I was actually employed, and I actually booked myself for a speaker course, a speaker accelerator course,
Yeah.
because I'm really passionate about giving back and helping people. And people say sometimes like your story is quite motivational, inspirational, Sean. And I just want to have a better presence and tell my story the best way possible on a stage and in front of people. And I suppose when I used to get bullied at school, it was like it's better to say nothing than say something, get hit for it. And it kind of stumped a little bit of my confidence, which is why I think I end up getting, something stuck in my throat sometimes, or my heart beating my throat
Yeah.
while I'm doing a speech or speaking in front of a crowd. So I was like, hey, I've got anything that I'm not good at, I need to throw myself in the lion's den and attack it, because that's what I need to get better at. So yeah, I did that sort of course, and now I have done a few more sort of lives. Still need to do a few in person with people, but I'm not as afraid anymore, because I know how to manage my state off stage, how to manage my audience a little bit better, and actually I'm helping the team around me that work with me. I'm doing role plays with them and teaching them how to present, how to look more confident on stage, and it's all about learning skills and sharing it with other people. And while you're sharing it with other people, it just reinforces that you know what you know also.
Yeah.
So I just think a lesson for everybody is don't stop improving yourself, and like we said earlier on, be a student of the game.
Yeah.
And don't stop learning, because life is a journey, it's not a destination. It's not just getting to the top of your mountain. and that's it. It's, hey, we got to the top of the mountain. Where's the mountain that's bigger, or where's the mountain that's
There's always another challenge, isn't
more
it?
challenging?
Yeah.
Because I think this is where mental health comes into it, where people just plateau. They go into their 9 to 5s, same environment, same friends, and it's just the same old stuff going on, and nothing's challenging them. And then it just takes one bad thing to happen, and their situation's a little bit more boring or worse.
Mundane is the word I'd use. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it just things get worse. Challenge yourself, as you say. That was a very good question what you asked there, Shaz. So
But I just want to say, I mean, on that, because I love what you said, and it reminds me, I listen to a lot of Alex Hormozy,
okay,
and he talks about skill stacking.
yeah,
And like you say, it's not 1 + 1 is 2, it's compound, isn't it? So if you have the skill of sales and you stack it with the skill of, I'm trying to think of the skill like negotiation or something, that becomes a much bigger skill in itself. So yeah, don't be afraid to invest in yourself and add skills to your tool set, because they compound and become bigger and not just add on to each other, you know?
100. I mean, I've ended up in the property industry, and I do see myself as an expert without a shadow of
You're
doubt.
doing it,
You
so
know, I've done it for over 20 years, and I've worked in a bank, so I've worked right next to Anish. Anish, if you're watching, Anish Taylor, me and him used
hey
to sit in
Anish.
the room. He was such a good guy. I actually
Yeah.
bought my first property off him
Okay.
in Dagenham as well, and yeah, that's a nice little cherry, that one. I love that house. But
Yeah.
we worked really well together. So I learned all the finance side there. I learned, 60 years of experience through my family, got passed down just being around that environment. I was a builder for 7 years, so making
So being a
houses,
sponge, you like taking it all in.
exactly. And and then I've sort of looked at all of my deals and saying, how can I get the best yield? And I've gone into different sectors, got different sort of planning agreed. I've worked with architects and extensions or another new build, etc. So I thoroughly enjoyed the experience, but I feel that I'm nearly at the sort of the end of that mountain and that chapter, which is why you can see people go, well, are you glad you done all of it and then came on social media? Because people come on social media while they're doing it. Well, when I started, 2009, 2010, social media wasn't such a big thing, and I was just
Yeah.
working a couple of jobs and just trying to get stuff done. But I feel now I can definitely give people a good idea. I'm an entrepreneur myself, so I've even opened like the little Greek restaurant next to Liverpool Street, and got that cash flowing also. So there's other things that I'm good at, and I just know how to run businesses. Like, here's an income, here's the thing that happens in the middle, and there's the outcome, and how do you pull all of the strings.
Yeah.
And I suppose I'm just enjoying this journey and connecting with people
No,
like
I love it.
yourself.
I love it. I think it's a good. I think what is good though for people to be, and maybe when you're younger, it's more difficult to be more self aware, because not everyone can be an entrepreneur or even a business owner. Some people are happy in their jobs, and that's absolutely fine.
That's okay.
But as long as you know that and you're happy
Yeah.
with it, so, and it's about taking that personal responsibility of knowing yourself.
Yeah.
I don't like people. I don't class myself as an entrepreneur. I don't take the risks entrepreneurs do. I'm a business owner. I think. Who knows? It's a journey. I might switch into that other mode at some point. But yeah, you've got to be very knowing of yourself.
But you're an expert in your field, and you were very knowledgeable. And I know you've helped a lot of people today with all the questions, because some of that stuff's even paid. What people pay people for, to understand how mortgages work and who they need to complete a transaction. So I just wanted to say a big thank you, Shaz.
Awesome.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me.
If you could just let everybody know how they can follow you and reach out to you.
Yeah, I'm Alex Hormozy, and I have nothing to sell you. No, guys, I'm Shaz. Thanks for listening. Follow me on Instagram at Where's Shaz.
And guys, don't forget to smash the bell notification so you don't miss any podcast. Leave us a comment. If there's any question that I missed out or Shaz didn't answer, ask us a question. We're normally happy to put stuff on our story or make a reel about it. That's content for us, yo. And don't forget to share this with some friends and family. We're sharing with you. Pass that good energy on. You don't know who you're helping. And let's get ahead together and build a community. So I'll see you on the next one, guys. Take care.
Peace out.
Nice.
Nice one, bro.